somebody who got life. Somebody who got a lot of life this weekend was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein should have gotten life in prison when he was first charged with solicitation of underage prostitution in 2008 here in the state of Florida. Just so happened to have a very interesting conversation with the Attorney General in the state of Florida. There's a lot of motion. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that are really exciting about this moment. Because of this movement, and because you refuse to pay taxes to child predator cults, we are going to save this nation. It's an amazing thing. And so much happened over the weekend. And I guess I should just start with keeping the main thing, which was this weekend in Tampa, Florida, Student Action Summit, Turning Point USA. There was a series of speeches that just burned the freaking issue to the ground. Some of the biggest names in the entire movement: Steve Bannon, Megyn Kelly, Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson. Humbly, to a much lesser extent, myself. We're all on stage demanding the release of the Epstein client list. And without a doubt, and let me just tell you from first-hand experience, this is the number one motivating issue for the base. You don't have a political movement if you don't have a base. And if that base feels like you're betraying them or not telling them the truth, then they're not going to like that. I love President Trump. I'm not saying turn on Trump or anything like that, okay? This is without question, the MAGA movement is without question the best vessel forward. And I think the MAGA movement could really be a durable 100-year movement. What I'm saying is that there are pressure point issues that have to be resolved here. And what happened this weekend was we were able to demonstrate what the pressure looked like. Here's a couple of good examples here, right? Here's Tucker Carlson. It's probably the speech that went the most viral. Tucker Carlson talking about Jeffrey Epstein at Student Action Summit, ladies and gentlemen, and explaining what the real problem is here. Take it away.
The fact that the U.S. government, the one that I voted for, refused to take my question seriously and instead said, "Case closed, shut up, conspiracy theorist," was too much for me. And I don't think the rest of us should be satisfied with that. And by the way, let me just say really quickly, because I was so mad about it that I think I found out part of what's going on. I think we are going to find out more. And I think the truth, for whatever it's worth, in case you're interested, is that the DOJ didn't release lots of incriminating sex videos with Epstein and his billionaire pals because they don't have them. They don't have them because when the original search warrant was served 2007, I think, possibly 2006, I think 7, it was basically designed to protect Epstein. The search warrant was written in such a way to make sure that the feds never got their hands on the actually incriminating evidence. It's another way of saying the cover-up has been going on since 2007, almost 20 years. And so the real question is not, was Jeffrey Epstein a weirdo who was abusing girls? Yes, we can answer that. The real question is, why was he doing this, on whose behalf, and where did the money come from? And those are the questions that need to be answered. And I think it's entirely fair to ask them. And it's not adequate to say anyone who asked them is somehow desecrating the memory of little girls who died in Texas. I'm not going to put up with that answer. I don't care who gives that answer. That is not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried.
Tucker Carlson getting at the very root and heart of the issue here, which is that you're not allowed to go commit crimes on our soil as a foreign nation, and we're just supposed to shut up and take it. I don't care if you're our greatest ally. That just doesn't, that includes so many countries. That includes Mexico, Saudi Arabia, all of these countries, China. Where do you think the fentanyl comes from? Like, maybe put a stop to it now and put a stop to it eternally and put a stop to it on all fronts. But yes, absolutely, there is an enormous preponderance of credible evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was working with Israeli intelligence. Let me just go off the top of the dome, okay? Top of the dome here. Don't consider myself the world's greatest expert, but, well, we have asked a few questions about this. Jeffrey Epstein's madame, the procurer of the entire sex trafficking operation, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, was Mossad. Got a state funeral in Israel. The Israeli prime minister at the time that was eulogizing him said that the benefits to the state of Israel that Robert Maxwell gave, the story will never fully be told. The guy literally arms trafficked, war trafficked, broke every Geneva Convention imaginable on behalf of that state. That's just a matter of historic record and fact. That's Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. Jeffrey Epstein's pseudo-father was Bill Barr's dad, who was a founding member of the OSS, which led to the creation of the CIA, who hired Jeffrey Epstein at the Dalton School, even though he didn't have a college degree, who wrote a book about how you can rule a planet through pedophilia and in trapping the population through blackmail. He wrote the book. It's called Space Relations. Anyway, the point is that Jeffrey Epstein is raised by the CIA guy. Ghislaine Maxwell is raised by this Mossad guy. They put them together. And then, lo and behold, what happens next? Well, multiple Israeli prime ministers literally lived with Jeffrey Epstein. Ehud Barak's one of them, but he's not the only one. Jeffrey Epstein, there are many emails connecting Jeffrey Epstein to his ability to open up resources and opportunities in Israel. And I guess if you're looking for something that's totally anecdotal, how about this one? On this program, I asked Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, Alan Dershowitz. I know you all love Alan so very much. You all love Dersh so much. Don't worry, we check the comments. The point is that Dersh knows what he knows. I'll put that one up too, man. That's a great article, Klein. Thank you for grabbing that. Just so happens that Jeffrey Epstein bragged about being a CIA agent and a foreign operative. By the way, the importance of the CIA in this story is woefully undercovered. The CIA is not allowed to run ops on American soil. Now, that's not saying that they don't. Of course they do, but that would be a big time naughty thing for them to do. They're a clandestine organ of our federal government. They are not supposed to do that to American citizens. So let's go with the Boy Scout answer here and ask yourself this. Who would benefit? Which intel agency that's not allowed to operate in America would benefit from an island in international waters to do their crimes on? Bueller? Anything? Anyway, we asked Dersh, who I know you're all big fans of. We asked Dersh, hey, you were Epstein's lawyer. Was he Mossad? And in an answer that is still bewildering to this day, Dershowitz says, no, he wasn't Mossad, except for that one time. That one time that he asked for me to connect him with a bunch of heads of government in Israel. And I did. And he flew in. And one of the guys was probably Mossad. So, there was that one time that he definitely did that meeting. But, whatever, right? Don't pay too much attention to it. You have that, Cliff Klein. How long is it? Yeah, I mean, sure. Why not? Here, just us contributing to the evidence collection on Jeffrey Epstein more than the DOJ has. Here you go. We're able to preserve a plea deal for Jeffrey Epstein in 2008 when you were his lawyer. Alex Acosta made a pretty stunning claim as to why that plea deal went forward and why he wasn't able to get a heavier prosecution against Jeffrey Epstein, saying, I was told that Epstein belonged to Intel and to leave it alone. And this is what Acosta said before a Senate committee looking to confirm him in the first Trump term. Can you expound on that? Could you unpack that for us?
Yeah, I would be shocked if that were true. Jeffrey Epstein was not a reliable person. I can't imagine that any intelligence service would be using him, but I've heard the claim. I heard the claim that the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agents, used him just the way they used Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Maxwell. And, you never know. One thing about intelligence services, they act in secret. So you never know. But I can't imagine any thoughtful intelligence service using a guy like Jeffrey Epstein. But it's certainly possible. If so, I didn't know anything about it. In fact, once when I was in Israel writing a book, he called me. He was in France. And he said, I've never been to Israel. I don't know anybody in Israel. Could I come visit you for a day? And he did. He flew his plane, and I took him on a walk in the Shuk, in the Arab area. We had lunch with some prominent Israelis, judges, etc. He asked me to put together a lunch. And then about 9 o'clock at night, he got on his plane as he left. As far as I know, that was the only time he was ever in Israel. But who knows? He could have fooled me, too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. I just the one time that I took him there and connected him with Mossad. Tucker Carlson going viral this weekend, ruffling a lot of feathers, saying, no, trust me, it's because the United States is protecting their foreign intelligence relationships that we are not getting the Epstein list. Here's just one more double down from Tucker Carlson this weekend, very quickly here.
Do you agree with Candace Owens that the reason we are not going to see the client list is because Israel is implicated?
Israel is implicated. I don't know that there is a client list. Dan Bongino got shafted, completely shafted. The fact is, she got on television on Fox News and started saying stuff like, I've got the client list on my desk. And actually, no, you don't.
When you told your wife, my career is changing after 14 years, did her reaction surprise you?
She thought they were really anti-Christian.
Do you agree?
Oh, of course. If you said on Fox, hey, how's Bethlehem doing? Whoa. I mean, you'd be out of there.
What is wrong with Elon?
Can't have two alpha bitches in the same kitchen. I just had that actually over the 4th of July.
All right. Okay. So the pertinent part is the Epstein part, and I really encourage you to go watch. There's a 3-minute clip. Maybe we'll have time to play it in the show, but we just don't have time right now. There's a 3-minute clip of Tucker Carlson really breaking down this relationship. And now that has boiled over. Breaking news here, ladies and gentlemen. And why don't we do the stinger, ladies and gentlemen? Breaking news: Tucker Carlson is fighting with the Prime Minister of Israel on X. Let's freaking go. Naftali Bennett. Click through, please. Naftali Bennett decided to send a shot across the bow. Now, this is the former prime minister of Israel. He's also somebody who, is in the running to perhaps maybe become the prime minister again in the future. He heads a very a powerful Israeli political party. Now, this is remarkable. He's gone directly at Tucker Carlson. Shakespeare has this line that says, the lady doth protest too much, right? What the hell are you doing exactly, sir, coming after Tucker? He's an American. He has every right to ask a question. And in fact, you have an obligation to answer. Let's read. As former Israeli prime minister, with the Mossad having reported directly to me, sure, I say to you with 100% certainty, the accusation that Jeffrey Epstein somehow worked for Israel or Mossad running a blackmail ring is categorically false. Now, this is a remarkable post. Why would they have to even say this? What tell me about how you beat your wife, right? If the accusations, the only person who's bothered by something like that is somebody who beats his wife. If the accusations are patently false, then you just chuckle them off and walk away. And how many fake things are said about us or this show on the internet every single freaking day? Just check the mentions, okay? I don't, but sometimes I get a chuckle out of them. The cops show up and knock on your door and they have 2 shovels. And they're like, we're going to dig in your backyard because we think you're a serial killer. And you bury people in your backyard. You kill them and you bury people. The innocent man says, you know what? I'm going to get some iced tea and some lemonade. And I'm going to sit out back and watch you dig. It's going to be a funny afternoon. Okay? Have a good time. Kappa, right? A guilty person profusely sweats and calls his lawyer and says, get a warrant, right? These are not the behaviors of innocent people. If Tucker Carlson is making a totally spurious and insane claim that doesn't merit any person of high stature responding, then you just don't respond. But if what Tucker is saying has perhaps even a scintilla or a shadow of truth to it, then it'll pluck the nerves of certain people, like this guy, and it'll say something like this: "Wow, Epstein's conduct, both the criminal and merely despicable, had nothing whatsoever to do with the state of Israel, except for, Epstein's lawyer on my show saying, of course, he was having a great time with Mossad in Israel. Epstein never worked for the Mossad, the accusations lie being peddled by prominent online personalities, Tucker Carlson, pretending that they know things that they don't. They just make things up, say it with confidence, and the lies stick because it's Israel. There's a vicious wave of slander and lies against my country and my people. We won't take it. You won't take it. You won't take it. What do you mean you won't take it? What are you talking about, sir? You take billions every year in foreign aid. Israel is one of the richest countries on earth. Why do you take billions every year in foreign aid? Why don't you not take that? If you're not going to take it. I'm not sure, I'm going to pull the full Wakanda. I'm going to go full Wakanda on this guy. We don't do that here. Okay? You're trying to silence Tucker. We don't do that here. That's not what we do here. Right? That's not, Tucker's allowed to have any idea that he wants. In fact, you, as the agent of a government, which is our servants, by the way, you are our servant. You are also like a welfare child of the United States. You have an obligation, in fact, to answer questions like this. Sure, just like answer the question. Okay, so he didn't work for the Mossad. Do you have any evidence? Other than you just banging a pot with a spoon, do you have any evidence of that? Have you presented any evidence? This is the problem that we currently have. There is a crisis of lack of evidence being presented. And when we're told to just shut up and move along, shut up, move along, shut up. We looked into it, move along. That era's over, bro. Whether it's you or whether it's Pam Bondi or anyone. Shut up. We looked into it, move along. Nope. This guy guarantees that we won't move along, in fact. And so this is a real problem. We don't do that here. You're not allowed to attack Tucker. You're not allowed to sit there and go after Tucker. Tucker has every right to ask these questions. Tucker probably knows more about the intelligence agencies than you. Tucker's father, of course, as Tucker has readily admitted, Tucker probably has some of the best sources inside American intel, and that's where he's getting a lot of this. So to say that he's just that Tucker's just some crackpot crazy person is insane, and Tucker's responded. Good for him. You just won't take it anymore, says Tucker. Instead of issuing threats on social media, why don't you sit down for an interview on Epstein's ties to the Israeli government? We'll reach out to your office this morning. Good for you, Tucker. Way to go. Great. Cool. Okay, so Israel, according to Grok, Israel gets close to $4 billion a year. Okay. Oh, okay. So 13 billion. That these are, according to some figures, it kind of depends on how you push the math here. Got it? All right. So you're not going to take it anymore? Why don't you not take that anymore? There's a couple strings tied to the $14 billion we give one of the richest countries on earth a year. What? Why do we do that? Does Israel give us any money? I don't think so. Where's our check? When was the last time you saw a humanitarian effort here in this country led by Israel, right? For a poorer, impoverished people in this country, or defense of our southern border led by Israel, or a pothole being filled, in this country led by Israel, paid for by Israel. Well, that's insane. It's insane. It's insane. So don't insult us all. Take the enormous amount of money from our treasury, and then come after a guy like Tucker, or any journalist in America for that matter, who's doing their best to get to the truth on all this. And it didn't need to get to this point. This is I think the argument of this show over the last many days has been, you have pressure cookers in society, and those pressure cookers fill up and they get really hot and they get ready to explode. And what you have to do is you have to do the pressure release valve in order to keep the the boiler from exploding. And the way to increase the pressure exponentially in a Chernobyl level meltdown is to be we looked into it, shut up. And then to disrespect people. It's the worst possible way to handle it. Here's Glenn Greenwald. One of Epstein's closest friends was former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. A key source of Epstein's vast wealth, though mysterious, was from Les Wexner, whose primary life cause is Israel. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, billionaire Robert Maxwell, was a Mossad agent who mysteriously died after that was reported. Though Maxwell was British, Israel gave him a state funeral. Epstein got red carpet treatment when visiting Israel. Epstein bankrolled major investments in Israeli tech and so on, evidence below. But fine, if Epstein had no ties to Israeli intelligence or intel service, which is theoretically possible, why can't Pam Bondi, CIA, or FBI just say that? Sagar and Jetty. Here's a list of Israeli prime ministers linked to Epstein. Shimon Peres introduced Ehud Barak to Epstein. Ehud Olmert named as Epstein associate. Ehud Barak connections too vast to paraphrase. Netanyahu met with J.P. Morgan after apparent Epstein intro, and then there's all the corresponding articles. Not here to there's something else going on here, and what's going to happen is the more you say, shut up, don't look at it, the more people are going to look at it, and they're going to start asking questions, and they're going to come to the conclusion that there's something much bigger going on, and that's what's trying to be hidden here. I guess it does make sense. The U.S. attorney who spiked the case, Alex Acosta, is on the record, this is Megyn Kelly speaking, is on the record saying Epstein was an intel agent and that he was told to get rid of the prosecution. If Epstein was an agent, it's clearly either for the U.S. or Israel. Both deny it. What would you expect them to say? He had multiple odd Israeli connections. This denial is meaningless. But, the lady doth protest too much. Anyway, I don't have any proof. What I do have is I have the experience of standing on stage in front of 70,000 roaring MAGA base activists and getting this response when I said release the Epstein. What I'm saying here is that this is a core issue. It's a core issue that has not been handled thus far correctly. Here's the reaction when I just blurted it out on stage.
That's 50 Cent. That's our rapper. This is their rapper. Okay. Oh, had to do it. Had to do it. Release the Epstein files, am I right? Yeah. Had to do it.
Listen to that roar. Ooh. I can tell you what, man. I mean, it's one thing to hear it here, but to hear it in the room, to be on stage, it shakes. It shakes the arena. We're inside of a sports arena, effectively. It's from the rafters. It's like you just won the championship. Megyn Kelly here in this tweet, nuking whoever, Naftali Bennett, who's telling somehow our journalists to shut up and refusing to answer questions on the record like nobody will. Megyn Kelly here on stage saying exactly what she thinks about this whole current crisis. Let's go.
Let me just ask you, make some noise if you care about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. I blame Pam Bondi. I'll tell you why, okay? I have nothing, yes, incompetence, yes. I have nothing against Pam Bondi as a human being. I was fine with her nomination and her confirmation, and she's been loyal to the president, and I get that President Trump needs a loyal attorney general. Look what happened with Sessions the first time. He went away, and then the next thing you know, we had the Mueller investigation, and it was a nightmare. But there are a lot of other people who can be loyal and competent in that job. Here, she is the reason that things are unraveling around this story right now that virtually all of the Republican Party cares deeply about. It's also true that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel had questions about Epstein before they took office, okay, before they went into the FBI. But once they joined the FBI, they said nothing. They kept their mouths shut about Epstein. You have not seen them, except for one joint appearance with Dan and Kash on Fox, running all over the media looking for attention on this, yes, clickbaity story. Who have you seen? Pam Bondi. She has never missed an opportunity to go on television and dangle sweet nothings that might be coming your way. Try to lead you to believe that she's got it, it's on her desk, it's coming tomorrow, you're going to see something on Epstein. And it was a tease. So you either believe that Pam Bondi was telling the truth then, or that she's telling the truth now. But both cannot be true. She was either lying when she went on Fox News all those times saying, I've got it, we're looking at it, wait until you see it, it's horrible. Or she's lying in her 2-page memo that they released on a Sunday night at the tail end of a holiday weekend to Axios, as if Axios is where we all go for our news. Hell no. She went to someone she knew would not kick the tires on the story. And without signing the memo, dropped it in the dead of night and said, that's it. Take it. Take the crumbs and be happy. Refused to come out and give a presser. Come out and give a press conference. Stand there for 6 hours to the point where people are dying of boredom. They've asked all their questions. That's how you put a scandal to rest.
It's true. And it's totally unnecessary. This is what makes my blood boil. This is unnecessary. If you stand by your work, stand by your work. Guess who's standing by this work? No one! Nobody! The memo remains unsigned. No one has taken a question on it. No one has defended it. The memo, which is sitting right here on the DOJ website, you can see it with your own two eyeballs. Scroll down to the bottom, please. Well, would you look at that? It's unsigned. Incredible. We have news on the Biden auto pen. Turns out the auto pen wasn't working today. Nobody felt like signing this. What a strange way to try and end this saga. If everybody believes this, why doesn't anybody defend it? Has one person from the federal government said, it's me, I wrote it, I stand by the work, I'm going to go take the questions now? That's how it works, man. Stand and deliver. Like, have a set of ball, like, sack up, get some balls in your shorts, and walk out there and answer for this. Answer real questions for this. Make this the subject of the conversation. Not a one-off here and there. Not something that can be shut down. Not something like inside of a very controlled little environment. Like, let people go and ask questions. This is the opposite of transparency. And it's having a fallout. It didn't have to be a scandal. It didn't. I'm just going to do a thought experiment. Let's say Epstein's an intel agent. He's an intel asset, and sources and methods, they got to protect it. And they have to come to this conclusion. Okay, fine. I don't like that answer. That's the wrong answer. But let's say you have to. Then you damn well better get out in front of it and explain that to people. You can. You can straight up explain it. I've watched so many congressional hearings, it makes my brain snap. And the number of times that somebody from our intel services say, we got to protect that, it's sources and methods, take from that what you will. That's an acceptable, meaning it's at the very least a true answer. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather have the true answer than the insulting answer, which is shut up. Don't ask questions. You know, and what happens when you're trying to do this like 5-dimensional chess jujitsu here is you end up with stories that don't make any sense, right? So here's a good example. Here's the writing of Virginia Roberts, who was the most famous sex trafficking victim of Jeffrey Epstein. I'm reading to you directly from her private diary. I used to be watched by Epstein's hidden cameras, which I've seen myself. The FBI have the archive footage showing me being abused by older men. It was used as blackmail. But also, interesting. So that's what the first person account says of Jeffrey Epstein. That's what the first person experience of one of the trafficking victims says. By the way, this is the individual, and the only individual, as far as I know, that has been paid out tens of millions of pounds from the British royal family based on the amount of demonstrable evidence that Prince Andrew abused her, including photographic evidence. That's strange. Prince Andrew got his title stripped and is now anathema. Had the black spot in the royal family. How bad do you got to be to get that to happen inside the royal family, which is a very effed up family? His own friends say that Prince Andrew was, and I quote, effing children. So his buddies are saying that. Like, his closest confidants are saying that on camera. Pam Bondi goes and says that the Epstein list is on her desk. Between Alina Habba, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, like Bongino, the old clips, they live in infamy. Some of them were broadcast live on our show. But every single one of them saying that there is a demonstrable amount of horrible evidence here. Pam Bondi, the first time she was ever asked about Epstein was me at CPAC, like a day after she was confirmed. We were very proud. We're very proud of this. We obviously wanted to give them a ton of runway. We knew it was going to be complicated. But in the most polite way, I'm like, give us the Epstein list now. She said, it's on my desk. That's what she said. It made huge news. And then they consistently said that until they didn't. Then what happened next? There is no list. So this thing we've been telling you about suddenly disappears. There is no list, and Jeffrey Epstein had no clients and didn't do any sex trafficking, even though we've charged him and Ghislaine Maxwell with sex trafficking. Even though Jeffrey Epstein was already found guilty in court for sex trafficking, and Ghislaine Maxwell is doing 20 years in Club Fed for sex trafficking. It's like an insane thing to say. The Epstein files don't exist, they didn't tell us, after telling us they exist. And then this weekend, President Trump posted a Truth Social that's too long to read to you here. We've done plenty of coverage of it over the weekend. Here it is. Please go read it for yourself. I cannot encourage you enough. But the essence of this is President Trump saying, no, there is actually an Epstein list. Yes, it's all real. But it was created by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Say what now? Well, then the story's changed again. That seems like wildly insane, meaning like, well, if they created, like Comey and Brennan are currently being prosecuted for creating a fake dossier and then going after Trump with it. Can we prosecute them again for creating a fake Epstein list? That might be convenient. Why not release it if it's all fake? If it's not real, then let's have it. Let her rip. The stories are so inconsistent that they beg more questions, and then with the a former prime minister of Israel spouting off at Tucker, it doesn't give any. It gives no. It gives the illusion, or the reality, that there's so much more here. The lady doth protest too much. The problem is the fallout. Bongino threatened after our show on Friday. Bongino quite dramatically threatened to leave the FBI. Just one or two very quick and short and very important clips from this past weekend. Here's Megyn Kelly on Dan Bongino.
Prefer Bongino or Bond?
Yeah. Please, I mean, let's let her rip. Go.
He's not.
Who would you guys prefer, Bongino or Bonnie? Okay, 7,000 to 0.
They want Dan. Of course, Dan. You know why? Because Dan understands MAGA. Dan's part of the MAGA movement. Dan's been an important piece of it and a mouthpiece for like really important ideas and an advocate and a fierce warrior. He's been in the trenches. I mean, with all due respect to Pam Bondi, she's been in Florida. She represented the president. It's nice, but do you think she really gets MAGA? I don't think so. She wouldn't have behaved this way if she did. And now it's a time for choosing. It's a time for choosing.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not trying to rage click here. We're huge fans of Bongino. I consider him a mentor. He's been very helpful to me in my career. I'm a massive fan of Dan. I don't want Dan to leave the administration. I'm very upset about it. The assumption when President Trump, tripled down on Pam Bondi was that Dan was gone. And according to reporting from sources that we know very close to Dan, I'll just say that, the closest possible sources, Dan had left on Wednesday. And in fact, it wasn't on Friday that he walked out. On Wednesday, Dan said, I'm done. That was last week. According to President Trump, he's spoken with Dan. And it looks like President Trump is trying to steady the ship here. Here's what President Trump said about Bongino yesterday.
Oh, I think so. I did. I spoke to him today. Dan Bongino, very good guy. I've known him a long time. I've done his show many, many times. And he sounded terrific, actually. No, I think he's in good shape.
You have to put this dog down. You got to put the dog down. Here's an easy way to do it, ladies and gentlemen. We're just going to go really quickly through here. Can't wait to talk to Roger Stone about this. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghislaine Maxwell is ready to testify. The way to put the dog down is take her out of her cell, put her in front of the American people, and say, yo, what was this exactly? Since you were there and all the firsthand witnesses seem to be dying of mysterious circumstances, including but not limited to Virginia Roberts, who was just killed before this. Why do I say killed? That she's the premier witness to all of Epstein's crimes. She was hit by a bus in the middle of the Australian outback, winds up in the hospital, posts that she's about to die, and then days later she commits suicide. Come on, just come on, man. Dude, like, quit insulting us, right? Like, the lack of creativity, quite frankly, is depressing. Anyway, they're running out of like firsthand witnesses, and they're without giving us any kind of hard evidence and telling us to shut up and move along. What happens is then the conversation spirals and becomes subterranean, and it becomes darker, and people like assume the absolute worst. Scott Adams was up saying, like, whatever this is that the Trump administration is doing, Scott Adams, legend, whatever this is the Trump administration is doing, it's causing people's worst instincts about what Epstein was to be confirmed. So that's what this is leading to. People thought Jeffrey Epstein was dark. Now they think it's even darker and worse, right? It's having the opposite effect. Let Ghislaine speak. That's what I say. Let her speak. Ghislaine Maxwell is saying she's ready to testify before Congress about what was actually happening. She still says that she's innocent. Well, maybe this would be a way to like tell her story. Nobody's ever heard her story. She's rarely, if ever, been on video. Obviously, we have some videos of her. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an easy way. An easy way to get to the bottom of this is like, let's bring in the firsthand witnesses, right? Let them speak. What an easy way to show us that you are ready to give us hard evidence by letting the people who observed everything that was going on speak. Here's Ghislaine Maxwell explaining what she thinks about Jeffrey Epstein's suicide in prison.
No, he didn't. I don't believe he did. I believe that he was murdered. Well, I was shocked. And I wondered how it had happened. Because as far as I was concerned, I was sure he was going to appeal. And I was sure that he was covered under the non-prosecution agreement.
Yeah.
But I wasn't in the indictment. So I wasn't mentioned. I wasn't even one of the co-conspirators.
So she says he's murdered from federal prison. Of course, she's in prison